In this video, we're going to look at what actually makes a good solar and heat pump leads. Throughout our sort of few years in the renewable space, we've worked now with over 150 installers and spoke to hundreds more. So I'd like to think we've got a pretty good idea of what does convert and what doesn't. So we'll go through some common misconceptions about what actually makes a good lead, and then kind of go through the 3 or 4 main points of what actually makes a lead that is going to sell. This is actually based on real numbers from our installers and not just opinions and feedback. So we've got all the close rates of exactly how we qualify our lead and how well they close with our installers. As I mentioned, we have either worked with or spoken to thousands of installers now. So that's either the ones that we work with directly. You can see some on the left hand side, or we've got client interviews and other stuff done on our YouTube installers. We've had demo calls with hundreds more, and also sat down and done some podcasts with umbrella companies, our big clients, etc. So we've discussed leads now for the last sort of 3 or 4 years with companies of all shapes and sizes across the industry. So in terms of what makes a good lead, firstly, I'm going to touch upon some common misconceptions or myths that a lot of installers think does make a good lead or doesn't make a good lead. Getting onto these, first one being a customer needs to have really good knowledge of the systems, whether that's solar or a heat pump, and need to be an expert. So that's not true at all. We've seen it plenty of times. A customer who doesn't know a lot, if he goes to the right installer who can probably educate them and guide them to a decision, they will end up closing as long as they meet the criteria we'll go through in a second. Second thing is that a good lead will have no objections or problems or questions to answer. It's very rare that when you're selling something that's 10 to 15 grand, there's going to be leads that are completely questionless or objectionless. So if you are getting a customer that's got a lot of questions or objections, that is not a sign it's a bad lead. It's actually a sign that they are invested in this, they're genuinely thinking about it, otherwise they wouldn't bother with all the questions and objections in the first place. And the final thing is that the customer, if they don't go ahead with an install, it automatically means they're a bad lead. There's sort of 2 scenarios to this. We work plenty of installers where the lead goes to 2 installers, they choose one, and then the other one says it wasn't a good lead for XYZ reason. The most usual answer is that the other installer put together a better proposition and is better at sales. And even if that lead doesn't go ahead with an install whatsoever, a lot of that is because of the process of that particular installer. They might not have a structured way to guide someone through from inquiry to sale. They might not know how to handle objections, their pricing might be off. So rather than always blaming leads, if they don't decide to go ahead, look for feedback, look for ways to improve, because if someone is taking the time to have a survey and have a quote done, it's usually because there's some sort of desired state or pain point that they're trying to get away from that you can help them with. That leads quite nicely on top. The first thing that actually makes a good lead, and kind of the main thing that we look out for when qualifying leads for our installers, is the fact that does this person have a problem that the installer can actually solve. So on the left hand side, we've got examples of bad motivations for the inquiry or bad reasons for inquiring about a solar or a heat pump. So one example is if their energy bills are like 40 or 50 pounds a month and they want to save money, obviously the likelihood is their payback's going to be quite a long time and they might not save money. Obviously every property is different, but if there's nothing that we can actually help with, we won't book that in for the installer. Second one that we get sometimes is that, I just saw an advert on Facebook, so I thought I'd inquire about it. We then probe a little bit further into why they clicked on the advert, why they inquired, and there is no concrete reason or concrete problem that customer has, and they've just inquired for whatever reason. Last one is, I've seen it on the news a lot, or I've seen it all over my feed, so I thought I'd just find out what it's all about. So these are all sort of examples of people that don't have burning problems that need solving with either a heat pump or a solar system. On the right hand side, we've got some really great examples of customers that are prime sort of prospects for getting solar or a heat pump. So first one that we've been getting a lot recently, time of recording, is my oil bill has doubled or tripled in the last few months, so I'm looking for an alternative. That's a great example of someone in this situation who has really high oil bills and might not know anything about heat pumps, but just the fact that they are on oil, their energy bills are going through the roof, makes them a really good lead to go out and sell to. Next one is if it's a heat pump inquiry and they say, I already have a solar system and I want to go off grid or get rid of gas, whatever it is. Firstly, the fact they've got a solar system shows they have money and they've invested in renewables before, and it's a very good reason if they want to become energy independent and reduce their reliance on gas prices. The final example is their gas boiler is on the way out and they definitely want to move away from gas in the future. So these are just 3 examples of people that have inquired, they've thought about it, and they have a problem that the installer can go around and actually help them with. Second one is the customer aware of ballpark figures. So before we send any leads across to installers, we always give the customer a realistic price, either using Spruce or Easy PV. Obviously, it's not an exact quote, but based on their property, we give them a realistic idea of what the install is going to be costing. Firstly, just to make sure that aligns with their budgets. And secondly, before it goes through to the installer, we can just discuss with the customer finance options, what they're looking for, etc., etc. So we speak to a ridiculous amount of installers that have tried lead providers in the past where the customers always think it's funded or it's free, or the survey gets completely oversold as a free, no obligation visit without any sort of discussion of price. They then get there, give the customer an idea of pricing, and it's just way out of the person's budget. So you can't expect obviously a lead provider to provide an accurate quote on your behalf, but what they should be doing is providing the customer a ballpark figure that is realistic and actually aligns with your pricing, or you're always just fighting an uphill battle from the get-go. So the way that we do it is we provide a realistic remote estimate. As I mentioned, we're set up on Spruce and EasyPV for that. If the customer says that's a bit expensive or they sound a bit unsure about the price, we then have an open discussion with them about if they're open to finance options, what the actual budget is, that sort of thing, so we can see if it's worth an installer actually visiting them, and ultimately just making sure the customer is fully aware of a realistic ballpark figure. Third and final part of what makes a good lead, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons why we started to call leads on behalf of our installers, so anything that we provide is actually pre-booked appointment that we vetted, is the technical qualification of things, particularly for heat pumps rather than solar, which is a bit more technical and there's a lot more to check kind of remotely. We want to make sure that installers don't get there and it's a complete waste of time. So for example, on the bad side is a customer is fully kind of unaware of the full scope of the project. So if it's a heat pump inquiry, they've got really old radiators, no insulation, that sort of thing, we definitely make them aware that the radiators might need changing, they might need additional insulation done, and obviously that's going to come at additional cost and disruption. Second one is whether we're actually able to help the customer achieve goals, which links back to the first point we ran through. And then if it's a solar inquiry, we check basic details like roof space, there's no obstruction, shading, that sort of thing. Or if it's a heat pump inquiry, is there room for the water cylinder, is there room for the unit outside? All of these basic things that make a lead a no-go from a start, because there's nothing worse for an installer than calling up a customer, or even worse, actually going out to do an in-person survey and the lead's just dead within sort of 5-10 minutes of turning up straight away. So with us, we make sure the customer is fully aware of the project scope. We've confirmed that there's a realistic chance we can actually help that customer, and that the basic technical details like roof space or room for cylinders and heat pump units are all confirmed before that's passed across the installer. So there's three main things that we've identified as massively boosting the conversion rate of all our installers, and there's the three main things that we always check before a lead goes through to installer: that the customer actually has a genuine reason for the inquiry, they're aware of the costs, and that the property is actually going to be suitable from a technical standpoint. If that all sounds good and you're looking for more leads and jobs, just a brief overview of how we can help. We only provide pre-booked appointments, so there's no sort of leads chasing people up, unanswered calls. Anything you get from us is already booked in and ready for your quote. That's always done on a pay per quote and pay-as-you-go option, so it's really flexible for you. You can scale it up and down as you needed. So if it does sound like something of interest, if it might be helpful for you, there will be a link below to make an inquiry with our platform called Installrhub. There'll be a bit of information about what the platform entails, and you can go ahead and make an inquiry where one of our team will reach out and discuss it with you.